Hello, hello, hello. Ooh, there we go. All right, we're good. We're back on. Awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Markou. I'm one of the co-founders and CTO at ChainSafe. And for those that don't know me, like some stuff I do in the public kind of space is I used to work on Lodestar, the Ethereum 2 client at ChainSafe, and I also used to work, kind of maintain and lead Web3.js for quite some time. Come on, dude. Not using that. Okay, we're not using that. That's some stuff that I've done in the public. You might have seen me around on Twitter before about that. I'm here to talk about basically the developer experience and user experience of wallets and Dapps and how we can greatly improve on that. And this is coming from a lot of the learnings from working and building Lodestar as well as maintaining Web3.js over the last little while. I see some of you are paying attention today, and some of you clearly aren't, so hopefully I've got your attention now. Just a quick brief on ChainSafe. I don't have a lot of time, so we do a lot of protocol development work in Ethereum, Substrate, Polkadot, Filecoin, Mina. We maintain a bunch of SDKs, Web3.js, Unity, Web3 Unity, build a bunch of MetaMask snaps, as well as a bunch of products in bridging, gaming, and decentralized storage, and a ton of research that you guys should look up, but I don't have time to go over that, 15 minutes. So that's security and attention. As you may have seen, I tried to get your attention, and some of you paid attention, but there's an interesting crossover here with Dapps and wallets, and especially when we build apps in the space. Basically, it'd be crazy to say you're not trying to get users' attention. That's basically one of the main goals. You're trying to attract them to your website. You're trying to get them, draw them in, figure out, how do you keep them there to really enjoy the experience you're building. And at the same time, you're implicitly just trying to figure out what's the best way to do this securely, which is why you're building on a blockchain, most likely. So let's jump into my kind of first topic. I am going to speak a little fast because I don't have a lot of time here, but basically connecting to Dapps. So you're probably all very familiar with if you've used how many of you guys used a Dapp in the last week? Yeah, probably all of you. So you're familiar with the common connection flow. And if you're not, basically what happens is when you connect to a website or a Dapp, basically you have to get an RPC node somehow. The common flow is typically, you broker the connection through your wallet, and then your wallet says, hey, I have a trusted node that I know, that I trust. Dapp, take that from me and use it, and that's what's serving your data. Sometimes you might be lucky and they'll actually give you an RPC node, and you don't have to go that way, which means they'll display data for you, and I'll get into that in a second why that's important. Because typically you're prompted with this. You reload the web page, you go to the page, and this is what you get. You don't get the app, you don't get the experience, you get nothing. Instead, you get this window that says you have to connect your Dapp because, as I mentioned before, they're trying to get that RPC node from you, and they just assume implicitly that, hey, let's use the connect enable function and just grab that. And this is kind of tragic of a pattern that we've adopted, and it's actually a big security concern. Because why do you need my address? If you're trying to sell me on your app and why I should be using your portfolio manager or whatever it really is, just some new yield farming thing, why can't I just check out what's being built and displayed on the website before you actually serve me and ask me for my address? That's asking for my name before shaking my hand. It's a little weird. I don't know. Because we all know what cookies are. Yeah. What if I connect two addresses in the same browser session in 5 minutes apart, 2 hours apart, on a desktop that doesn't change IP? I've now just correlated all your addresses, and sure, it's hosted on PFS. You're not storing this or logging this data, but you're using some analytics service that is, and then they get exploited. Now your address is correlated to an IP, and you could have 2, 3, 4, 5 addresses correlated just because a user wants to check out your app, not use it. So now you're basically compromising your users just simply because you're using this broken flow, and you just don't want to give people an RPC URL. Here's something that's interesting. This is really nice. These guys have been doing this forever. Do you guys see what's different here? This is when you log into their website. There's something there. There's something really magical right there, They ask you, hey, what is an address that you want to look up? Because you can just look up whatever. Why can't I pretend to be Vitalik.eth, and just plug in his ENS name, see what his DeFi positions look like to experience your app? It's probably because you're a little too lazy to go put in your own RPC URL and you're just brokering it through MetaMask. But what if I told you MetaMask lets you get access to reads for free. You don't need my address. So why do we keep asking people for our addresses when all we're trying to do is sell them on why you should go to our website and use your Dapp or whatever it's doing? It's a big problem. It's a really big problem. And as I disclosed earlier, you should really be figuring out how we can like get the RPC node there. You know, maybe let users plug in an RPC URL. That would be really nice too. But right now you rely on the wallet and you rely on disclosing addresses, which is a really, really big concern. And so there's really only one actual real valid use case where I should disclose my address to like right away. And that's if you're trying to serve me private data. What I mean by private data is something I might have to decrypt. Maybe you're storing it in your Postgres database or something like that, maybe on IPFS, but it's encrypted. And I'm the only one that should ever be able to see it. Otherwise, why can't I go to your yield farming website and just like plug in, you know, like I said, vitalik.eth or something like that? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just reading data. I can't even sign on behalf of it. It doesn't break my experience. It doesn't break your experience. It just makes things a little bit more private, a little bit more secure. And you sign in with Ethereum because it's great. Quick TLDR, I don't have time to go over this because we're going to run out of time. But you should have been paying attention, so. Don't disclose my address, please. Let's talk about how wallets don't talk a lot. They're kind of dumb. They're like built that way. They're not really supposed to do a whole lot. They need to be like secure first. That's like kind of the idea. But they're not expressive enough. And what do I mean by that? So let's use two of the most common features that people use every day that don't know are unbelievably broken and one of the most onerous things for developers to actually use. Speed up and cancel. Building Web3.js, I learned this the painful way, that like 90% of users think it's my problem. It's Web3.js's problem. It's Ether's problem. Why they can't access and understand that it's been sped up or canceled. What if I told you it's not about a part of the protocol? And I'm sure most of you probably know this, that like in order for them to work, you increase the gas price by 10% to jump it out of the mempool, and you do a bunch of other stuff. Again, I'm not going to go into details because of time, but pretty standard stuff. This is how speed up and cancels work. So developers and dApps have a fundamental problem. Because all you're doing is replacing a transaction in the mempool, that means when you send the TX hash down into the app, so the wallet, basically there's this whole provider API that exists, and they pass information down to the Dapp, and the Dapp says, cool, thanks for the TX hash, I'm waiting, and then you speed up. The app has no idea that like what you just did, and all it sees is a new TX hash, and it has to like try and figure out like what just happened. It's onerous. It's not great. So then Dapp developers have gone clever and they're like, oh, okay, I'll just like pull the blockchain endlessly and go block by block, transaction by transaction, trying to find and match those nonces to that same address. But this is like, does anyone see what's wrong here? Like the wallet knows that the user pressed speed up, yet it's not telling the browser that the user pressed speed up, yet it'll tell the user everything else that the wallet has done. So like, there's a solution. It's pretty easy. I talked about before, we have this thing called the Ethereum Provider API, formalized in 2018. It basically says, how does a wallet talk to a Dapp? This is just like super simple standard stuff. And it was developed so that any new wallet could enter the space and basically say, it'll work out of the gate with every single app that exists. This is what Wallet Connect use, Web3.js, MetaMask, Trust Wallet, any wallet you can think of, any provider you can think of, we all use it. And there's a special method that exists in there that's arbitrary. That's the best part. If you ever used anybody out here do contract development? You subscribe to an event to see if like an event triggered. That uses this really arbitrary thing called the message, like the message provider API. It's a subset inside the Ethereum Provider API. And we have a great EIP, and I promise this isn't a chill. 2831, transaction replacement message type. With 3 lines of code, quite literally 3 lines of code in most wallets, because you just add an extra event to fire out. You can now subscribe to TX cancel, speed up, replacement. Obviously, these things are also TBD. We could change them a little bit. But the gist is like you could figure out that a transaction was actually sped up. So now when you go to your app, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, you speed up. Next thing you know, you're refreshing the page. They can't find your transaction. You saw it was mine, but the app website's still going like, where is it? Where is it? Don't find it. And then it's just like, it doesn't work. You refresh. Now you're missing some like in-between steps because you had to do like 3 transactions in a row and it doesn't know what it's doing. And basically, your experience sucks. And if it doesn't do that, it's doing this endless polling in the background, meaning you probably don't have like a truly decentralized app, right? It's probably not bundled nicely in the browser. So with a really simple addition, we can actually like greatly improve the UX by just like having wallets be a little bit more expressive, communicating a little bit more to the website to serve its purpose. So I'm just checking the time. I'm not being rude, I promise. Oh, Amr, why are you texting me? I'm kidding. Yeah, so TLDR, we'll go over this one quick. I mean, it's pretty easy. You know, it's like, what can you do? You can probably just implement 2831. Like, that's the easiest thing we could ever do. I've talked really fast. Wow, we're doing great for time. Let us scroll. So I gave this talk in Ethereum ETH Denver. I'm gonna gloss over a bunch of the early stuff and kind of get to like the kind of good little bits. This is a concept that's existed forever, and this is a concept that was like really brought to light by Richard Moore, the developer Ethers.js, and I kind of expanded on it a little bit. But the whole gist of this is like, you know, wallet developers aren't. There's a lot of like features that wallets can do and can provide to us, especially from like the mnemonics phase all the way to like even the transaction phase, as I described earlier. But they like don't, and they hide a lot of these things because they're considered like advanced features that we shouldn't be disclosing to the user because they're like too difficult. So I'm going to propose to you like maybe something that we can change, because I don't think so. This is the function to take a, I can't say mnemonic anymore, secret recovery phrase, to a seed, and a seed being like a private key type of deal. But this is like the HD node, and then you derive. Anyway, I'm getting a little technical there. There's a really cool feature that exists in here that nobody ever lets you use unless you've done some digging, which is the password. Typically, this is set to empty string, meaning it just doesn't do anything. This is actually, I don't know if anyone knows, like I got the number wrong last night. The 13th word or the 25th word, you know, like that extra one you can tack on. That's what this is, but like everyone sets it to empty string because it's just like too complicated for users to remember a password. Yeah, right. So what can we do with this? I'm gonna kind of skip. Kind of looks like this. So like just for clarity, you take a secret recovery phrase, you get a default set of accounts, you then add a password, the accounts change. It's just how mnemonic, it's how like HD nodes work. You just get a whole new set of accounts. So like, where's the benefit here for users? Why can wallet devs just implement this like one small feature and it will like greatly improve security for the end user? You can set up like a canary alert system. So like canaries, like in coal mines back in the day, you know, they used to put them everywhere to see if like there was dangerous gas and then the canary was dead and it's like, oh no, let's get out. Let's do the same thing. You know, what's an insurance policy that like, here, you had 100 ETH, what would your insurance policy be on if I could say like, you could have like an hour to like save the other half, like 1%, 5%, what would you put up? 5 ETH out of the 100? So what if you just put like 5 ETH in this canary account that defaults at the first 24 words, and then on the, when you add the password and get that 25th, that's where you store the other 95. Then some email alerting system, if somebody compromises your 24 words, then all you have to do, you'll just get an email saying like someone transferred money out of this account because like you just would never touch this. You just leave it there. It's a honeypot, but it's like an insurance policy for yourself without having to rely on like a third party. Then you get an email saying like something was transferred, which should never have been, which means you've been compromised. All you gotta do is just like quickly rotate out, set up this whole system again. Should be like no time at all. That's squirreling. It's something that like wallet devs should really consider like adding. It's easy to implement and like very straightforward. It's literally one form input field. Again, all my stuff here, like one small change, and like the UX like dramatically increases for everybody, including the DevEx. And that's squirreling. Yeah, let's get more advanced features out there for everyone. What's my time? Oh, sick. Okay, cool. If you want to get in touch with anybody at ChainSafe Eth. Funny. Info ChainSafe, or you can find me, Greg the Greek, you know, slight internet troll from time to time. If anybody has questions, we've got probably 45 seconds if I'm doing my math right. I'm happy to fire them off really, really fast. And oh yeah, that's it. Thank you. We have t-shirts. Not like this. I get yelled at for wearing this one because it's old. But we have nice ones like that. Find the nice people at the front. If there's no questions, I'm happy. Cool. 3, 2, 1. Wonderful. Thanks for coming, guys, and I appreciate it a lot.